Hello and welcome to another edition of Coaching Corner. Thanks for joining us today. Today we are talking about the Platform Spring 2020 release. There are some really big and exciting things we've been working on for this release. A lot of them were in preparation for our in-person IMPUG, but we kind of accelerated the timeline on some of these things in order to get them to you as soon as possible, especially with all the things going on in our world and COVID and the importance of communication in this time. And so we didn't want to hold out and save them until the virtual IMPUG. We wanted to go ahead and get them to you as soon as possible. So today I am joined as usual by the lovely Melissa Ravelas, our coaching director, who will be walking through some of these exciting enhancements and changes for you to kind of give you the heads up on things not to miss and exciting things to make sure that your church is aware of and can leverage. As always, check out the release notes for all the details, especially this one. Like I said, there are a lot of really big changes, and we've tried to be very articulate in the release notes on things that you need to make sure that you draw your attention to in case action is required. And so just please make sure to look at those with an extra critical eye this time and make sure that you are well aware of what's in the release and if there's any actions that are required for your church to start leveraging some of these features. And as always, don't hesitate to reach out to support, to ask a question, get some help from our awesome support team, or be connected with a coach. Coaching is an exciting way to figure out how to leverage these features in a way that is specific to your church. And Melissa and her team do a fabulous job helping our churches in that way. So without further ado, I will say, hey, Melissa, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well. I'm making you the presenter so that you can share all the lovely tabs that I know you have open and walk
Yes.
us through some of the highlights here.
All right. So we're going to start with probably the biggest highlight here, although maybe that's debatable depending on a few things. But it is definitely an exciting thing. It's something that a lot of your end users are going to see right away. And you do want to make sure that they're aware of it because some of the basic behavior of our new message tool has changed, definitely for the better. But it's always good to make sure that people know when things have changed. So here on our groups page, we have two groups selected. You can see that there's 4 people in one of them and 12 in another. I'm going to go ahead and launch our new message tool. And when I do that, you'll see that this interface has changed quite a bit. And so you'll see we have two groups selected in my current unsaved selection. And you'll notice that right here, my recipients bar, it's telling me that it's going to send it to the participants and the current participants. So if I ever want to know who that is, I can definitely open a group and see that that is my default view on my participant subpage. So the tool is now looking at that, and if you want to read into the release notes, you can see what's controlling that. But we've essentially gone through, and now that is your default. So now, rather than sending to the group primary contacts, which was the default before, we are now sending to the current participants. Now, there is another awesome button right here. We can now send to parents. So rather than if we had like third graders selected, rather than sending it to the third graders, we're going to be sending it to their parents. So that's awesome. And you no longer have to transfer selections or make fancy views. You can now just use the new message tool right from here. We'll
And the
give it a
crowd goes wild.
yes. This is such a big deal because I know that that's such a hard thing to get a lot of our users around. And so send to parents is right there. It's going to send to just the heads of household in that household, as well as non-custodial parents. Correct, Megan?
Yes.
And so now I can put in here, we do want to be aware that when we're using the send to parents, all of our merge fields here are going to be for the child in the group. So you would want to say your child, and then we could put in our nickname, merge field Johnny. It would pretending we've got Johnny is in the, and then we can put in our group here, our group name. And so now we can tell them that, Johnny is going to be in the red group for VBS. We're so excited to see Johnny, and mom and dad are going to get this email all about that. And so this is just kind of a really great between being able to send to subpages as well as send to parents. Those are two really big wins. You as a spot can control which views are available in your drop down list. And there you do that as a bit field in the system setup area. There's a bit field to say show in mail message. And so you can control what subpages are there. Some of your users might get excited about this and start making some of the subpage views like all their leaders. And then you could have a view of all of your leaders in your groups and just send to them. So really, really great enhancement, makes it really easy and obvious for your users. And then down here, you'll notice in our send button, we have our 28. So that's who we're sending to in this group. And so that's really great to have that number right there. We also have another great enhancement, which is under the settings tab, and this is our bulk email. So right now it's defaulting to include recipients who have opted out. So this is assuming we're sending more of a transactional email. You know, you are my group leader or you signed up for camp. But if we need to send a bulk email, we can go ahead and unselect that. And anybody who has bulk email opt out set to true on their contact record is automatically going to be excluded. You don't have to worry about that. And you'll notice that my number in the bottom right corner, I must have one person who has that set to true, and my number is dropping one or adding one depending on my option there. So really, really great enhancement. Probably another one that's just as exciting, so many fun things here,
I
is
know.
our send to me button. So that sends me a copy of this message and it will allow me to kind of preview it, make sure everything is going great, because as you may have heard, we do have a new template editor coming soon. And so that'll allow a lot of really fancy HTML, and you can get that on your email, look at it on your phone, do all those things, make sure it looks good. And so the send to me option is really nice. The other thing that will happen when you hit send to me is that the system will automatically save it as a draft for you. And then we have our send button, which would send out our email to all of those people. So anything I missed on that, Megan?
No, you hit the highlights, and just if you're watching this before the webinar, then don't miss the webinar. Melissa and I will be doing a webinar going over this and a little bit more on the new message tool and the new template editor tool coming soon. If that webinar is already passed, make sure to go check it out on the knowledge base because we'll put the recording there. So then you can get a super deep dive and start really leveraging these things in fun ways. So awesome. Okay, what else?
Well, as we just were talking about the template editor tool, you will notice that in this release, we have added a new page to the communications section called templates. Now, you don't have to worry if you had messages that were marked as template and did not have an expiration date, then they will be transferred automatically for you to the templates page. So when you get in this update, you will have templates created for you from your templates on the messages page. Now, this is the page the new template editor tool is going to use, and our new message tool is now going to be looking at this page for templates. So very similar to our new message or our messages page, the records on here. We still have our template user group, whether or not it's active, you can assign it to just a specific page. So same controls, just another place where that template editor tool is going to be able to be aware of. The only thing that you will have to manually do is that if you have physical attachments set to some of your templates, you will need to download those and reattach them to the appropriate template on the templates page. So any attached files will not come over, but the actual template itself with all the HTML or other text in the body will come over just fine. Anything to add to that, Megan?
The only thing is, yeah, that was perfect. And yeah, remember to move your attachments over. Don't make any manual changes to the body data field. That's going to all be handled through our template editor, and we don't want to mess that up in any way. The only other item to note here is that kind of long term, we're trying to move all of the templates to this new table to clean up the messages table and have that be truly messages and not just holding things that are holding for like a template, but it's going to take us a little while. It's because we have a lot of routines and drop downs and all kinds of things that use messages. So for right now, just the new message tool will be using this, the template editor tool will be using this, and then in the coming months, we will be transitioning other things over to using this new templates table as we update other applications.
Yep. So templates are going to be great. And like Megan said, messages that are going out by some of the routines, like the event reminder notification, those are still using the messages page. So just be kind of aware of that as and kind of keep in check with us as we continue forward.
And one other thing that I don't want to miss, because this was a big ask from the community, was did you notice that the template name is different than the subject? So
I,
that
yeah,
that 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 was a big one. Lots of people asking, I want to name my template something that's different than the actual subject so that my email doesn't get sent out with the wrong subject, or my users don't have so much trouble finding the template that they're looking for. So there is now a separate template name, which doesn't have to be the same as the subject. So hopefully that
Which
helps
is
make that
awesome.
better too.
Yes, that will hopefully keep us from sending out missions template instead of a real subject name. So
Exactly.
definitely utilize those texts, and at least if nothing else, put a subject text in that will not be odd if somebody actually gets it in their email because the user forgets to update it. Definitely exciting there. Well, the next thing is exciting, and the implications of this are really quite diverse and very fun. And I was actually talking to one of our Spocks this morning, and we were talking about all the fun ways that this new enhancement could be utilized in the future. And I know Dev has some fun things planned for it themselves, but we now have the ability to associate a subpage with just about any other page in the system. So prior to this, there were some really specific rules about what pages could be associated, what subpages could be associated with what pages, and it had to do with the connectivityness of the records. And I never quite fully wrapped my head around it, but now I don't have to, because just about any page can be added as a subpage to another page. So we'll go ahead and we'll go down to our groups, and we'll just take a look at one of these records. So if you have ever looked at one of these records before, you knew that it was looking at tables and there was some coding in here. Now this is a very simple record. So we have our page name, the display name, the view order, that's all very self-explanatory, our select from field name, and then what we're filtering on. So in this case, it's on the groups page. So we're filtering by that group ID, and our parent filter ID, which is going to be the same, and our target page, which is the actual page. Now, our event and rooms page is kind of a funky example because this one does have a different name. So if we were looking at our groups page and we were looking at our participants, you would see that our page that we're looking at here that we're associating with this is our group participants. So anything to add here, Megan?
Just so that everybody knows, there's no action required for this. So we will migrate and move everything over from the old fields to the new fields. Your security roles will continue to give people access to the same things that they had access to before. One kind of thing is if you had a subpage that did not have a main page previously. So there's a few, I don't think there's just a few in what we ship, but obviously people create all kinds of things all the time. So we will create a main page for you, and it will be put into the hidden section, so it's not going to show up in the navigation, but all of that's going to be handled. We've been testing all of that to the nth degree to make sure that's all going to be beautiful and seamless for you. If you have done custom development, we obviously do not support any custom development against the actual subpage record as far as changing those fields or adding fields, because those are what we call is one of our DP pages. So you should not be doing custom dev against that. But if you have a custom view or you have something that you've created custom that relies on fields from the subpage record, just make sure to get those updated or at least reviewed to make sure that those are going to continue to function the way that you expect them to.
So, but this is very fun with some of, so we were talking about some of the filtered page options, or some of your staff who just need to see a few pages and a few sub pages. You could now put all those pages together on the contacts or participants page and get them, attributes and family members and groups and all the different things all together. So definitely a lot of those things that just weren't really possible before are possible now, and will really increase, I think, just the user accessibility of the system and having all those subpages handy. So definitely keep us posted on some of the good ideas. I'm excited to see on the Google group some of the fun things that people do with this to create some really helpful pages and subpages there.
Yeah, that was definitely our goal was, I want to be able to open a contact and see what groups they're in and not have that be in a separate place. So excited to see the ways that this will hopefully make things more consolidated and easy for people. Cool. Any last things you want to share, Melissa?
Nope, I think that's the extent of it. There's a few other fun things in the release notes, but I'll let you find those in the release notes. And definitely excited about how this new message tool is going to change lives. Definitely make sure that your users are aware, because like I said, if somebody is used to going to the groups page and starting there and sending to just their group primary contacts or has some other, normal method along those lines, you do want to make sure that you give them a heads up that they will now be sending to all of those members, not just the primary contacts. So definitely, either send them this coaching corner in a little bit of the time, or hopefully we'll have, that new message tool webinar shortly after, but make sure that your users have that information before this release comes out so that they're not caught unaware and accidentally sending more emails than they expected.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah. We really hope that this release is very helpful to you guys. Like I said, we kind of accelerated our timeline on getting the message tool out, not wanting to just show it to you at Impug or save it for virtual Impug, but to actually get it out as soon as we could so that you guys can start leveraging it. Because I know that communication is always important, but especially in this time that we're living in right now, that it's just extra important. Everyone's doing that much more communication, and so we're just trying to make that easier and more efficient and more effective for you guys. So we hope that that's a great blessing to your church. And we look forward to the future too, that it opens up for us for continued enhancements in the future. So thank you, Melissa, so much for your time to walk us through these very big and high impact changes. And we will talk to you all next time. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.